The Legend of Zelda series was always an immensely renowned franchise, bringing us beloved stories, epic challenges, and groundbreaking advances in gameplay that defined genres and captivated gamers of all kinds. But in 2017, with the launch of the Nintendo Switch, the latest and what many argue greatest installment of the legend did what many believed was the impossible. This game shattered expectations with its take on the open world environment, rewarding physics engine, and masterful art style that even ascended it to my favorite Zelda game. It quickly became a success, a massive success, and changed the world of gaming forever. This is Breath of the Wild 5 years later. Where do I begin? I mean, even 5 years later, I still have a blast playing this title. And I've been playing The Legend of Zelda for as long as I can remember. Up until now, Ocarina of Time was my #1 Zelda game, and then Breath of the Wild came along and changed all that. While the game isn't perfect and does have some glaring issues, the sheer greatness of its greatest parts completely outshine what can be viewed as bad in this game to such a degree that they are minuscule to the grand scheme of Breath of the Wild. An ample testament to the idea is that, just like Zelda games before this, Breath of the Wild and Nintendo have redefined the basis on which this game is built on. An open world game, or I should say an open air game. And one of the most beautiful things about Breath of the Wild is that that concept is so true in multiple facets. Not only the world you're in, but also the way you approach this world, truly being one of the most open-ended adventures that I've ever played. Allowing you to go wherever you want, at your own pace. Truly crafting an adventure all your own in this breathtaking, massive world. Other games and many developers have taken note of this, and have tried to apply this magic to their own titles. And that's not to mention the insanely intuitive physics engine that rewards exploration and experimentation. The combination of all these points forged the magic that allows you to truly tackle almost any situation in this game the way you want it to. And the immense continued popularity of this game is leading into the anticipated sequel of Breath of the Wild 2. But let's take a trip down memory lane, shall we, in order for you to understand the impact that Breath of the Wild had on me, many others, merely off the sheer freedom that this game has to offer. When I first got the game 5 years ago, I've already played it multiple times at pre-release events, which includes the Great Plateau, but truly after getting off that area, the game opened so wide to me to the point I felt overwhelmed by the sheer majesty of the unknown that stood before me. And while I can go anywhere I wanted, I decided to take the advice of King Rome and head to Kakariko Village. Along the way, I caught my own horse, I battled many enemies, and I was able to tackle multiple shrines. All of this, within the first hour of the game, really told me that I could take the game at my own pace, but at the same time, there was never a dull moment in this living, breathing world, teeming with life, enemies, and challenges in every corner. The feeling was especially great when finding shrines that weren't in your field of view. But as I passed the Twin Peaks, met Hetsu, and finally made my way into Kakariko Village, that is when I truly understood the second most important thing about Breath of the Wild, the freedom. After finishing the Great Fairy Quest, I decided to go to the Mount Lanara region and learn the hard way of the existence of Lynels. While I wanted to scale the mountain, I didn't have the equipment necessary in order to confront the cold, as my quilted shirt was not enough. So I decided to backtrack to Kakariko Village, in which I saw the Lanara wetlands from a distance, and purely on a whim, I went for it. and the ability to have that choice felt so liberating. Then I was presented with a very funny situation in which I was able to see the top of the Korok Forest and the Great Deku Tree from that distance, and I really wanted to go there to see what I needed in order to obtain the Master Sword because I knew it was there. But I was stopped on my way there by a passing Zora. You guys know what I'm talking about. This eventually led me to meet Prince Sidon and finally make my way to Zora's domain. And the magical area of this city was just awe-inspiring. Gaining the Zora armor, accomplishing the quests found here, and eventually completing my first divine beast really let my wonder go wild. And this was all before I even made it to Hateno village. I dedicated so many hours to this region alone in the beginning of my playthrough. It told me the third most important thing about the impact Breath of the Wild had, and that is the amount of content that you can find in a densely dedicated area. And the amount of these dedicated areas is truly up to you to figure out and find. And when trying to find these areas, your journeys will be riddled with side quests, enemies, dangers, and treasure, all while discovering the main story and everyone's own individual stories along the way. And depending on what you want to accomplish, this game could be as long or as short as you want it to be. And that's not to mention all of the wild stuff that players have been discovering from the beginning up until now when it comes to what this game can offer gameplay wise. For someone like me, who has over 1,000 hours of gameplay in Breath of the Wild, there's always something more to discover. There's always a reason to go back. There's always a reason to start your journey anew. And the ability to decide to go a different route each time you start your journey and not feel limited by that choice, in terms of direction and gameplay style, is something that I've seen many games attempt, but not refined to the point that Breath of the Wild did for me. And this married by all the beautiful numerous set pieces, lore references, and content that is provided by all the accomplishments that you will attain while playing this game. And that's the fourth thing that I've learned when playing Breath of the Wild, is that the source of accomplishments in this title is so varied and so vast that anyone will truly feel that sense. When discovering a new area, when unlocking a brand new secret, when gaining a specific weapon that you've been looking for hours, when finally defeating your first Lionel, when spotting your first dragon, when reaching the top of a Kala Citadel, or discovering the darkness of the Typhlo ruins. The game offers so much for you to be proud of, and that is truly a worthy accomplishment of its own. While challenges exist for the hardcore gamers, such as finding and completing all the shrines, unlocking all of the shrine towers, and defeating all of the world bosses, the game is structured so that even when a casual gamer defeats their first Hinox, that is something that they can truly feel proud of. And an accomplishment of another kind is perhaps needing the time to relax, getting on your horse, and just traveling the beautiful, lush world of Hyrule in a calming journey while taking in the sights. But something that I've learned of a grand fifth impact of Breath of the Wild that has unified gamers all over the world, both hardcore and casual, first time and veteran, is that this game, Breath of the Wild, marks a gigantic milestone in exposing the world over to the Legend of Zelda more so than any other game before it. And for a big milestone in a series full of milestones, Breath of the Wild did something that other series only dream of, and that is cultivate the curiosity for other new players of this game to rediscover the legend for their own. Whether it be A Link to the Past, whether it be Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, the first Zelda, Minish Cap, the Oracle games, more and more people are discovering the legend for themselves in their own way, creating more milestones for games that already had theirs in times past, thanks to the gigantic milestone that is Breath of the Wild. And that is a gigantic impact that Breath of the Wild had on the gaming world, both inside and outside its own existence. And if that isn't a grand impact, then I don't know what is. I hope you enjoyed this video, and what is your fondest memory of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 5 years later? Be sure to like the video and share it up with your Zelda legions in order to spread the good word of this game 5 years after release. Big thanks to my Patreon supporters for help making this video happen. If you want to find out how you can support HMK for just $1 a month, check out my info in the description box below. Alright guys, there's 5 years and here's to 5 more when it comes to the Nintendo Switch and Breath of the Wild, hopefully going into Breath of the Wild 2. Until the next Zelda video, this has been HMK, and I will check you guys later.